Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to 2025. Very fortunate to have the position of introducing you to Jyoti today. And Jyoti's going to take us through the first quarter of this year that we're already a few days into. Ahead, we'll take a look at January, February, and March and see what's in store for us. Jyoti, thanks for putting this together for us.
Oh, absolutely, Lauren. Yes, quarter by quarter.
Quarter by quarter. I'm super curious. Let's get started.
Okay. Okay. So we've talked in other videos, other podcasts about Mars and Pluto dancing together at the very 2nd of January, at the very beginning of the year, when we did the New Year's Day chart
Right.
for the overview of the year. So that video is there. But I want to just reiterate that on the 2nd of January, Mars did oppose Pluto, and it will come again. But it is a very volatile time. It is very challenging. And we kind of started the year there. It
Mm,
wasn't a kind of slow burn into the new year. It was kind of like, okay, here's the first challenge.
mm.
And then we skip ahead a little bit to the 13th, which is the full moon on the 13th at 3:27 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And this full moon has the sun and moon in opposition, which is always the full moon. And the moon is very close to Mars, and the sun is very close to Pluto. So this full moon on the 13th is kind of bringing that Mars Pluto, keeping it in the light, maybe not bringing it back into the light, but keeping it in our attention. To me, it's about finding your voice, at
Yeah.
finding your voice and uh, doing what you know is right and really stepping into and maintaining your own sense of integrity.
Mm. So, Jyoti, I seem to remember that you mentioned that full moons will amplify whatever energies there. Would you see that in this case?
I think, it's like the new moon is the beginning. So
Right.
you always want to get something in motion around the new moon, if you're going to start something. And then that full moon, that next full moon, it's like full blown energies. It's things reaching their peak because then the energy starts to wane and, go all the way down until the next new moon, which is the beginning again.
So this
Yes.
finding our voice would reach its peak at that full moon. This,
Yes, because it's taking that Mars Pluto opposition and it's kind of embracing it into this moon cycle so that it's now a part of the moon cycle. And during this amplification of the full moon, it's just really challenging. It's saying, well, okay, what about your voice? What do you have to say? What is true for you? The sun is trining the planet Uranus, and so there's, a real sense of wanting freedom and wanting the freedom to speak or do whatever.
hmm.
And Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius, it's emphasizing that need for freedom and to speak your truth and speak for those who can't speak for themselves.
Yeah, so just looking for those opportunities because they'll be coming up for sure with that aspect.
Yes, and good time to spend some time with yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the next aspect we're looking at is on the 26th of January to the 5th of February, the planet Uranus is stationing. And Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius, just as we're starting to get into the time of Aquarius, Uranus stationing, it's like expect the unexpected. That 26th of January to the 5th of February, there's things that may come out of left field, and it's like, oh, I didn't even know about that, or I didn't see that coming, or, and the nature of the planet Uranus is change. It's just the way it is. It will bring change into situations that feel fairly stable, but it's an opportunity to look at things from a different point of view.
Okay.
And then we have the new moon, the Chinese New Year of the wood snake, on the 28th at 5:36 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And people can look up, the wood snake online if they want, but just as an idea, it's a lot of, so this is for the next year, the year of the wood snake. It's very family oriented, and it's strategic thinking and intelligence with refined taste. And I think about how people feel about snake. There's so much myth and legends around snakes, and most people, or a lot of people, are afraid of snakes. They don't like them. They don't want to think about it. But I look at snake as the symbol of Kundalini energy in the spine, the upraised serpents on the Egyptian's headdress, denoting an open third eye. And so intuition, connection to higher self, all of that is what that represented. So to me, snake is like the vehicle of wisdom, or the symbol of wisdom. I mean, true wisdom, where you're really in touch with something beyond the logical mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that carries through for the year, that idea of being in touch with something beyond just, the logical everyday mind kind of thing. And then the on that day, the new moon part of that Chinese New Year, the new moon chart, it's insights into areas that might be a blind side for people. So getting in touch with shadow material, or getting in touch with some pieces of the subconscious. So there's opportunities for deeper looking. It's a new cycle of truth speaking. It's sun and moon and Aquarius with Mercury and Pluto on one side. And it's a tight little stellium, they call it, when it's three or more planets all within orb and together. And so it really has its beauty there. I mean, it's a new cycle of Aquarius energy, and it's almost like, you could say, in a mild way, it's like an initiation of Pluto having moved into Aquarius. Here's the first new moon in Aquarius right next to Pluto. And so it's saying, okay, here's all the energies that we have coming up over the next 20 years. And here's the bell that gets rung. Here's the catalyst for it all to go.
Nice.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so more humanitarian attitudes, perhaps. And then Venus, Neptune, and the North Node are all together at the end of Pisces. And so it's also about remembering your compassion, because Aquarius is very detached, and so they can step back and, watch a lot of things happen. But I remember thinking one time, or realizing one time how, I was very aware of the earth changes prophecies. Okay, Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, all those. And I kept waiting for them to happen. I kept waiting for, this might not be PC or whatever it's called. Yes, PC. But I kept waiting for California to fall into the ocean, because that was the prophecy. And I didn't think about it might not happen in my time. I thought it was imminent. And then I thought, what if my kids lived in California? It's one thing to be that detached and be looking at things happening. It's another thing when it's your own family or your own people or your friends that are involved in anything like that. So how do you bridge that Aquarius new moon with Venus, Neptune, North Node, and Pisces? The nodes have just switched from Aries, Libra back into Pisces, Virgo. And so, how does one cultivate compassion for the suffering of humankind, of the world, because it happens? And how does one align oneself spiritually to be of service?
Mm.
The objectivity of Aquarius is absolutely beautiful, you know, but there's a need also for the emotional body to be engaged somewhat so that you have the capacity to tend to be of service to and hold the space for the suffering of humankind.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's that moon. And so we end January on the 30th with the planet Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, turning direct. So it's always retrograde for several months every year. And so this year on January 30th, the planet Uranus is going direct and it's saying, okay, let's bring the intuition on board. Let's use it. It's available. And what changes have you been thinking of making? Let's start implementing them. I mean, things are kind of on hold until Mars goes direct toward the end of February, which we'll get to in the next few minutes. But the planet Uranus is saying, okay, what is it that we want to implement as far as the change we've seen we need to make?
Mm. Jyoti, as I'm listening to you go through this month, and it's really nice to be able to take this seat observing this, the gifts that are handed out through the month. First we gain our voice, right? We have that opportunity. It's our choice, but we have the opportunity there to gain our voice. Then we get the opportunity to take a look at our shadow and what we're not seeing in ourselves, this opportunity to gain compassion. And then along comes Uranus direct going, okay, take all this and do something with it.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, that's
yes,
really lovely. And I think when we see that all of this, it does all connect and it does all add up to something instead of looking at each aspect as some folks do as an inconvenience or, oh, this has been a really hard time. But to see, well, that challenge, as you see, I'm sure that challenge leads to this
yes.
opportunity.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, and there's small circles of that, and
Yes.
there's larger cycles or circles also. Yeah, that involve not days but years, you
Sure.
know? And
Sure.
and yes, absolutely.
So what about February?
Okay, so February, as we step into February, the 2nd to the 7th of February, the planet Jupiter is stationing. So we're looking at our philosophy of life, what we believe about life, what we believe about ourselves. And then Jupiter goes direct on the 4th of February. And we get to look at our abundance.
Mhm.
We get to look at how we share what we know because Jupiter's in Gemini, and now Jupiter going direct is going to go through the rest of Gemini because it's been hanging out in the 11 and 12 and 14 degree area while it's been retrograde. And so now it's going to continue on through the whole of Gemini. So Geminis will feel, wow, I can do anything.
Mhm.
And maybe there's that book I was thinking of, and to write, and maybe people who are writers will feel more able to take on writing projects. You know, it could be a communication kind of thing. It could be, oh, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I'm not sure how to do it, but I'm going to give it a go, or I'm going to go find somebody who can show me how to do it, you know? So Jupiter is going direct, and it's giving more movement and more of a sense of possibility.
Mm.
And then we come to the full moon on February 12th at 6:53 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And this full moon has the sun in Aquarius and the moon in Leo. Always full moon, sun and moon are opposite. They're both squaring Juno, the asteroid of relationship. And Mercury is part of that square too in Aquarius. And so it's having you look at your relationship dynamics, your one-to-one interactions with other people.
Mhm.
So it actually forms a grand cross, fixed grand cross in the chart that day, because it's the sun opposing the moon, both squaring the planet Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, and both squaring Juno, and so it's really a challenge to. It's kind of like what I think of is, how do you go away from yourself when you step into a relationship?
Mhm.
How do you step back inside of yourself, if you do? And how does that not ultimately serve you, instead of just being the totality of who you are in your interactions with other people?
So,
So,
do you mean like who do we become when we're in that relationship, Jyoti?
or yeah, what parts of ourselves do we not bring forward?
Oh, mm.
You know, so it's about authenticity. It's about the freedom to be oneself in your interactions, not just like personal love relationship or family relationship, but in all your relationships. How do you maintain that sense of freedom? This is me, this is who I am, this is how I do things.
Okay.
Okay, and what needs to be seen and communicated from within. And good news, Mars is going direct on February 23rd. And things that have been stirring and, in a sense, on hold, but yet triggered since I think it was early December, when Mars went retrograde, but it had been moving through Leo in November. And so all of a sudden, the things that have been on hold, even physical difficulties, it's Mars, it's the life force, it's the physical body, it's manifestation, you know? So what manifested ideas, manifested forms have been on hold and will begin to move after February 23rd.
Mm.
When Mars goes direct. It's like, okay, what wants to be manifested at this point in time, and how do we do that? Okay, and then we have the new moon for the 27th of February at 5:45 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And this brings strong insights and ideas to change consciousness. I love this one aspect, and it involves Pluto and the asteroid Pallas, the asteroid of intelligence. And these two are 1 degree apart in Aquarius, in early Aquarius, for this new moon, this new cycle. And so Pluto and Pallas together is the power of ideas to change consciousness. You
Wow.
know, you might say something at a lunch with a couple friends, and 2 weeks later, one of them comes back to you and says, you said something about this and that, and I took it home, and it wouldn't let me go, and I kept thinking about it, and it's like it changed my thinking. It changed my whole way of looking at life, you know? And so that's the power of Pallas, the asteroid of our intelligence, and Pluto together.
Beautiful. What an incredible way to wrap up the month there. And to think about, I mean, already thinking about what are the conversations I might want to have at that time? Like what relationships are stuck that we can't move forward from? I mean, you could
Right.
really make a list and be all ready.
You could. You could. And that's the beauty of knowing ahead of time what's coming. It's like the door of opportunity opens, and if you know when it's opening, like a new moon, a full moon, something going direct, you're ready to leap right through that open door. You'll eventually get there because we all do if you don't know it's coming. But if you do know, you know that door of opportunity is swinging
Yeah,
open.
yeah.
Yes.
And
So,
that applies to us too. I mean, it's not just us changing someone else's way of thinking, but
oh,
we're all open to that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This new moon, new cycle is absolutely about looking at how an idea can transform your thinking.
Yeah, beautiful, Jyoti.
And there's a grand trine in water. I'm keeping it loose. It has an asteroid in there, but it's Mars and Saturn and Vesta. And Vesta is the asteroid of the priestess, how we tend our village, And so you've got Mars trine Saturn. That gives stamina, that gives direction and purpose, that gives perseverance. It's a beautiful aspect because it means you can harness the energy and do something with it. At the same time, they are both trining Vesta. And so it's saying, how can you employ what the energy that you have in the service of tending your village?
Yeah, I love how again this just stacks up from the gifts of Jupiter and with
Yes,
expansion and abundance and our shifting our philosophy or reviewing what do I
yes,
feel is important out there and how do I share it, right?
yes.
So we've almost got this prep going on.
And
Uh,
then Mars goes direct, and
yeah,
we've got the physical energy and drive to make something happen.
yeah. I mean, the born teacher in me sees a curriculum laid out, we're just getting it from the planets.
Yes, 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 like our ancestors did. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Here's what I need to learn now.
Yes, here's what
Yeah.
it's time for. I mean, it might not be the Nile Delta flooding, and it's going to be an abundant and fertile year. It might not look like it did for the ancients, but what might be full in you that lends to your fertility and how you want to express that.
Well, and Jyoti, I mean, what a shift from us trying to lead ourselves and forcing things that aren't meant to happen in our life, or we don't have the resources for in many different ways, and instead opening to the gifts of the universe that are right there and following
Absolutely.
that program instead.
Yes. And sometimes also the universe speaks to us through other people.
Sure.
I mean, it comes through others. We're all part of the same whole, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So the other aspects of this new moon I just wanted to mention, are you getting what you are asking for in your relationships?
Hmm.
Looking at, your communication style, and are you getting what you want in your interactions with other people? And if not, it might be time to take stock and see how you're communicating. Yeah. And then we leave February
Yeah.
and we head into March.
Okay.
So on the 1st of March, Mercury enters the shadow of its next retrograde cycle.
Okay.
Okay. And also Venus turns retrograde, and it will turn direct in mid-April. So Venus here is in Aries, and so that's, risk taking, and maybe it's having us look at our own risk taking capacities and our own sense of where we're willing to dare the edges a little bit, you know? And so, yeah, so I have something that is not correct in my notes. I just noticed here. Okay, so, and Mercury entering its shadow, it will turn retrograde on March 15th, which we'll get to in a minute. And so it's beginning its cycle. Mercury is also in Aries. So it's like, we're in this year of
Yeah.
newness,
Yeah.
because when Neptune, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but at the end of March, on the 30th, Neptune is going to enter Aries. And Neptune has, where are my notes here? It's a 13 to 14 year time frame,
Wow.
and it's a new cycle of creativity. And it's going to last 13 to 14 years. And so there's this newness of Aries energy here. Venus in Aries going retrograde, Mercury entering its shadow in Aries, Neptune entering Aries. I mean, that's the big one, at the end of the month, and, retrograding back and then coming through and staying for like 13 years. And so it's just saying that we're on the edge of new material and new ways of doing things. And we are the receivers, you could say, of what wants to be implemented going forward, what it's time for, what it's what wants to be planted in the human consciousness and in its connection to the planet as Gaia, or Mother Earth, goes through her own evolution. And so it's new material,
Yeah.
and we will be the carriers as human beings. We will be the carriers of that new knowledge.
So it sounds like these March aspects, Venus turning retrograde and then Mercury going retrograde at that time in Aries and Neptune entering Aries are like setting the stage
Yes.
for what's going to evolve in the next quarters.
Yes, and even next year,
Yeah.
uh, and the years to come. But this is like laying the first couple step groundwork.
Okay. Okay. So
So
shall we dial back to that full moon on the 14th?
yes, yes. On the 14th, there's a lunar full moon eclipse. It's at 12:55 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. We've switched to daylight. And this lunar full moon eclipse, it's a full moon, and so the sun is in Pisces, moon in Virgo, and the sun and Saturn are close, a degree apart, degree and a half. They're both trining Mars. Very dynamic time.
This is the
Access.
first eclipse, right, of 2020.
Yes, 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 it is. Thank you. Yes, it is. There's two in March, and then there's two in September. So this full moon eclipse, it's a very dynamic energy. Sun, Saturn, trine Mars. It's kind of like harnessing your emotional intelligence and setting things in motion with a sense of self-discipline, or a sense of awareness of the energies that are afoot, not just going for it, Sun trine Mars, dynamic, let's get this show on the road. It's not that. This is in water signs, and Saturn's there to just say, pace yourself. Pace yourself, pay attention, be mindful, be present. Don't just leap into something because it showed up. And so Mercury and Venus are together, 2 degrees apart, and this is refinement of mind. This is looking at art, music, your conversations. How are you in your face, or how are you fairly diplomatic? And it also asks what needs to be healed. What needs to be healed here? Because that Mars is squaring Chiron, the healer, and saying, what is it time for? What is up for healing? And remember, eclipses take 3 to 6 months for the average person to begin to feel their influence. So then Mercury turns retrograde on the 15th at 12:46 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And we spend 3 weeks in that introspective, reassessing, relooking at, meditative kind of place. So that we can make the choices we need to make and see the things that are part of those decision-making process, what we want to maybe implement in the next round. And then we come to the spring equinox on the 20th of March. Sun enters Aries. It is you could call it the pagan or astrological new year. Spring equinox at 0 Aries that starts the wheel. And it's at 3:01 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And the spring equinox is like the starting chart for the next quarter from, the end of March, April, May, June, up until the summer solstice. So it has the sun in Aries and moon in Sag. So it's double fire. And it has a certain inspiration, lots of movement. It's Saturn North Node Neptune in in Pisces, conjuncting Sun, Venus, Mercury in Aries, all trine the moon in Sag. And so there's a lot of energy here and a lot of facets here of how to really bring spirit into form, really live from a place of inspiration and possibly inspire others. It's a very dynamic chart, actually. And so those are the qualities or the energies afoot for the next quarter. It can expand consciousness, opportunities to implement what you know. And for some people, it may bring things from your past to serve you. This life, other lives. It's just bringing things from your past to accommodate where you are right now and what's needed right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, and then on the 27th of March, Venus is conjuncting Neptune at 7:13 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And to me, it's a fairly innocuous kind of aspect. It's more about the feminine and our beliefs. But I've looked at it further because of things that are coming down the road. And I think it is like Venus in the middle of its retrograde is joining forces with Neptune at the end of Pisces, getting Neptune ready to step into this Aries energy for the next 13 years. So to me, Venus is the little death. I mean, in some charts, you can see where it showed up and carried a person's spirit out of the body. But that's not typical in astrology study. But here, I really feel like it's getting Neptune ready, because the next day, 3 days later, Neptune will enter Aries. And so it's getting Neptune ready. It's kind of like the last stages of grooming, so to speak, to bring the spiritual awareness opportunity to the masses. End of the old, Venus, little death, end of the old, of Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces, make no mistake, and then come back through Aries next year. I think it's January. Yeah, it is. And then we're really in it, Neptune moving through Aries. But we're going to get a taste here from March 30th through October 22nd of this year. Neptune will be at 0 Aries, 1 degree Aries, 2 degrees Aries, and then retrograde back. And then after October, it'll go back into Pisces, where it's been for the past 13, 14 years. And, asked us kind of like what our true beliefs are. And then Neptune, when it steps into fire, when it steps into that Aries, it's going to really speed things up. So from March,
just going to ask you, what do you think that biggest shift will be? So
it's energy,
speed, yeah.
Everything being energized. It's like, I know we've changed the pace from the Pisces hanging out in water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Floating along.
Let's make mud pies, or let's watch a movie, But Neptune's moving into Aries, and it's saying, hey, we have to get things going here. This is a whole nother round. And that's, I had a note here. I guess that was Saturn. But so Neptune's cycle will be March 30th to October 22nd of 25. And next year, January 26th of 26 through May 21st of 38.
Wow.
So that's the 12 to 13 years that Neptune will be moving through Aries and changing it up and speeding things up and giving us more, I would think, mental clarity and how to understand what's coming in.
Yeah, and I can't help but think of that coming on top of Pluto in Aquarius. So we're just settling
absolutely.
Pluto in Aquarius, and then along this comes speeding things up, right?
Oh, and in the next quarter, the planet Uranus will move into Gemini out of Taurus. I mean, it'll move in, give us a taste, retrograde back, and then next year come through like Neptune. And it's all those outer transcendental planets moving from water and earth into fire and air. So yes, it's going to be quicker. Yes. So in the meantime, on the 29th of March, there is a solar new moon eclipse. This is the second eclipse of the spring. And so it's the sun and moon together in Aries, with Mercury close, and Neptune and Venus and North Node and Saturn. I mean, that stellium still continues. So it's a new cycle in what do you want to set in motion, and be willing to see what gets in your own way, so that you can clear the decks and have at it. It's a new cycle of beginning things. It's a new moon. It's a new cycle. And it's in Aries, and it's saying, okay, what do you want to begin for this year? What do you want to begin? And so it's setting new ideas and concepts in motion, and it's about risk taking. And relationships feel better. I just want I just want to throw that in. Yes, for the yes. Um, but there's a lot of healing that's being pushed. Mars is in Cancer. It hasn't come back into Leo yet, and it's squaring Chiron, and it's shown up in a couple of the new moon, full moons here this month in March, and so it's just pushing that healing aspect, what needs to be healed. And then the next day, on the 30th of March, Neptune moves into Aries
Yeah.
until October. So I would just like to give the dates for the Venus and Mercury cycles. Okay? So the Venus cycle is February 4th, Venus enters its shadow. On March 1st, it turns retrograde. On April 12th, it turns direct, and it catches up on May 16th. So from February 4th to May 16th, we are dealing with our values, Venus retrograde, what's important to us, our sense of direction and purpose. Okay? And then Mercury's cycle is on March 1st. Mercury enters its shadow. On the 15th, it turns retrograde. It goes direct on April 7th, and it catches up April 26th. And during that time, it's a time of self-reflection, meditation, mulling over things, thinking about where we're heading individually, collectively, and what we are willing to risk to be that conveyor of information and insight for the new earth.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. And I love the way they overlap each other.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And it's for refinement when Mercury and Venus are together. And when two planets are retrograde together, it's like having a conjunction. And so it's kind of like, what do you need to refine in yourself? What do you need to get ready to leap for or about?
You know, I think if you were in any doubt that we're being prepared for something new, this chart and all these aspects for this first quarter really tell the story. It's right there.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, Lauren. It really is. I mean, it'll expand in the next quarter and some things will shift and change as we go through the quarters of the year. But it's really about this first quarter is so telling.
Yeah. Yeah. Jyoti, I so appreciate the detail you've gone into all of these. And for our listeners, we'll revisit them in twice a month, and we'll look at another section and we'll dive a little deeper. Just to remind you that there'll be more coming on these topics on a bi-monthly basis. But until then, now you've got a nice overview of what to expect. Jyoti,
Yes.
anything else you'd like to add?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think this covers it. And well, maybe just, and even though myself and other astrologers are giving interpretations and stuff, there's a lot to be known. There's a lot that's unknown,
Yeah.
in these times. And so even though I might give my interpretation of something or somebody else gives theirs, the aspects are bringing change, big change. This is evolutionary change, human evolution. This is like the changes that were made back in the late 60s and into the 70s because of a Uranus-Pluto conjunction. This is, we're going through a Uranus trine Pluto right now. So how do we bring what we feel is the way we want our lives to be and the type of life we want to live? And I think I remember saying that in the New Year's chart. What kind of life do we want to live? And how is it maybe a little easier right now to start putting those pieces in place?
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's one of those people that have felt like the environment didn't support yet all the changes I saw I wanted to make. This is exciting.
Yes, yes. because it's a wonderful feeling to feel that universal support, you know, as you're trying to, step in through and continue on your own path. It's nice to have that support from other like-minded folks.
Well,
Yeah,
Jyoti, I think your support offers so much to our listeners. So thank you for taking this time to prepare this and for all the insights you've offered.
you're welcome, Lauren. A pleasure.